like oral steroids, their cholesterol is going to look terrible.
Yeah. But let me say something, right? With the testosterone, there's a risk of hematocrit increasing, hemoglobin increasing, blood pressure increasing, all this stuff. You know what I mean? And then there's also the psychological side of, man, I feel freaking great at this dose. Let me freaking increase it a little bit. All of a sudden, I put 20 pounds of this guy who was 200 pounds. Now he's all of a sudden 220, 225 because he's getting jacked in the gym. All right, guys, welcome back to the Shintaro Higashi Show. Today, I'm here with a very special guest, my good friend, Vinnie Mancuso. What's going on, Vinnie?
Not much. How we doing?
Doing good, man. So why don't you give us a little bit of a rundown on your athletic career? Some highlights that you've had, just to kind of show that everybody, like, oh, yeah, I'm not just some random jacked dude, you know?
Well, I started my life wrestling at a pretty young age, 7 years old. Got into Judo at, about 21, I guess? 22.
Yeah, pretty late in the game for Judo.
Yeah,
but you grappled your whole life.
Yeah. So I did that. So I'm a second-degree black belt in Judo also. I'm a national champion and a Pan American champion in Sambo.
Nice.
And
that's a good one.
I'm a national champion and a world silver medalist in UWW grappling.
Nice. That's awesome, man. You have quite the record. And you're a heavyweight.
And I'm a heavyweight, yeah.
How much you weigh now?
Maybe under 240. So
nice.
Really not much of a little small for a heavyweight. It's kind of like an in-between weight.
Yep.
But not really fat, so can't really be 220.
Nice.
Without a lot of sacrifice, probably of performance and well-being.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, 20 pounds to cut is not easy, especially when you have a low body fat percentage like yours.
And you have a job and work. And
you have a job, work. You can't be like, I got to cut 18 more pounds. Let me pick up this guy. Let's work, get this guy.
Yeah. So.
Nice, man. All right, so we're going to talk today about performance enhancement. What an interesting topic.
It's an extremely interesting topic because it's gotten kind of mainstream. I feel like a lot of people are talking about it. Yeah,
so what happened, back in the day, right? You'd watch, I remember we wrestled in high school together. So we'll go to the AC, we'll grapple, and then we were obsessed with being jacked.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then the path was reading Muscle and Fitness.
Yeah, all that stuff.
And these guys are selling these over-the-counter supplements. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, buy Gakic and increase your bench by 70%. You remember Gakic?
Muscle Tech, yeah.
Muscle Tech, yeah. I would take it and I would just be like, man, I cannot.
I think the Cell Tech worked. Probably because just put weight on you.
Yeah, I mean, that and it's leucine and it's BCAAs and all this stuff. But like, those days are all long gone, where it's like there's a mysterious thing, no one knew about it, no one's talking about it. Now everyone's talking about it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the shift in the way people perceive some of these enhancements.
I mean, it's probably due to the social media.
Yeah.
I would think. Because that was kind of like secretive. At that age, I didn't know anything about that.
No,
zero.
Yeah.
Probably didn't know anything about it until I was like in my 20s.
Yeah.
You heard people like, oh yeah, this guy did that or that guy did that, but you don't know anything.
Yeah. No, you really don't. And it's all hearsay, like in the gym. Right?
Yeah,
there's nothing mainstream
100%.
information
100%.
out there. Like I remember I joined this gym called Pump and Iron. You remember that? 91st Street in New York?
Yeah.
It was like a bodybuilder.
That's like kind of like a hardcore style.
Hardcore. Yeah. Everyone in there yoked out of their minds.
Yeah.
And then
there was a couple of those places.
Yeah.
In Manhattan, like that. And I think it was that Mid-City Gym.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
Right?
I used to walk by all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember like asking one of the jacked up dudes. He's like roided up, 45 years old, like jacked up.
Yeah, I know.
I remember I was like, hey, what do you think the best creatine is? Should I get this like micronized stuff? And he goes, fuck yeah, we gotta be taking this testosterone. And I'm like, what? Tell me more. But now it's not like that. Like you could go on YouTube and watch this stuff and consume this stuff, and now the mainstream has a different view of it. Right?
Yeah.
Like how has it shifted throughout the years?
Well, it's probably shifted, I guess, because there's more information.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more people doing it. Plus, it's going from a gym level all the way up to like a medical level.
Medical level, there you go. Yeah.
So there's people that are old, they're 60 and 70, and they're functioning not only physically but mentally like somebody who's, I don't know, 20 years younger, 45, let's say.
Yeah.
So it trickles down. And then, like I said, you have like gym to medical. Well, then you also have those guys who are just taking it because, they want to feel good on the golf course or like at home with their wife or whatever. And then there's maybe guys that just do like a little bit more than that who are like in the gyms. But like, keeping it low, kind of nothing crazy. And then you got these guys that are like in the magazines that are just like,
yeah,
that are doing probably like insane things.
So we're talking about, you know, obviously testosterone. You know, so used to be, this is one thing, right? Oh, start a cycle, 200 milligrams a week. That was kind of the gold standard for everybody. You do 10 weeks on.
Well, that's like your basic, like,
Yeah.
basic, like, a lot of even TRT, that's like your basic kind of prescription.
Yeah, it is, you know.
Yeah.
But back in the day, it was cycle oriented a lot of these times.
Yes,
you go on, you go off.
absolutely.
But now with the medical stuff,
I don't think anybody does it like that
anymore, right?
No,
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's really interesting how, like, medically now it's like, all right, man, if you're like 40 or you're in good health, like this could make your life better,
Well,
50, 60.
Because the thing is, especially as you age, it is probably, I'll say, so you have doing nothing, you have doing a little bit, and you have doing a lot.
Yeah.
But from a little bit to a lot, there could be like 3 or 4 other categories there.
Yeah.
So it's probably healthiest for most people or a lot of people in that little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's definitely healthier to maybe be replacing especially your bioidentical hormones.
Yeah.
Than not doing anything.
Yeah.
Just because like the metabolism and the insulin resistance and the cholesterol and it keeps the fat down.
Yeah.
But then if you start going overboard, obviously, if you're leveraging it to like be humongous and gain weight, what happens is a lot of the guys end up getting side effects because they're just leveraging the stuff to be too heavy or too big.
Yes,
like you shouldn't be like 45 and decide I want to gain 30 pounds.
True.
That's
and a lot of people do.
That's not gonna. That's probably not gonna end well. But that's taking a lot more than just like somebody who's doing a hormone replacement. Then they could be doing some other things that aren't necessarily like not necessarily as safe, or maybe bring in things that might have some toxicities.
Yeah.
Because in that realm of medication, because they're all medication, right? Some of them are prescribable today, and depending on certain diseases, or certain physical states, or post surgeries, or whatever, and then other things are just not, or they were discontinued, and they're not or discontinued for a reason.
Yeah, like what's a discontinued, like Anavar? It's not discontinued, right?
No. No, that's actually available.
Oxandrolone.
Something like, I don't know, Dianabol or something.
Oh yeah, okay.
I don't think you're not going to find that. I don't think from a pharmacy or prescription.
Yeah, it's so interesting how like this hormone replacement therapy kind of like started happening, and people's doctors
hormone replacement's really just generally supposed to be testosterone.
Yeah.
And there's a couple other things that can be used for other reasons.
Yeah.
But generally, in most cases, that's really usually what it is.
Yeah, man, it's a wild thing. We know so much more about it now too, right? But
Absolutely.
I feel like a lot of people are misguided in this way.
100%. I mean, we have to remember we live in America.
Yeah.
And in America, it's a controlled substance, and there's basically, it's basically like, I guess, like a prohibition. In a way, and you need to really, you have to have a prescription. It's a Schedule 3 controlled substance, so it's not like if you go to certain countries where you can just buy it over the counter. It's not.
That's crazy.
It's not a big deal.
Yeah, there's some countries.
They would think this. They would think here is crazy that you need a prescription for that.
Yeah.
But then again, these people there, maybe they're not like abusing it. They're not like on Instagram looking at like whatever.
That's true. That's true.
Maybe just a guy, just needs it so he can like get up and work and feed his family.
Yeah.
Maybe exercise a little bit. Maybe some old lady needs like, a derivative of some sort in a low dose. So because she lives in a building and she's 80 years old and she doesn't have an elevator, and like the only way she can make it up and down the steps to get groceries is maybe by taking a little something like every 2 weeks or something.
Yeah, interesting.
So,
but I feel like it's very difficult for the majority of the population to do it right.
Very.
Yeah, because you have to monitor your blood work first and foremost, and it's not like this is the normal range. They give you this normal range. It's a huge range.
The range. So what's interesting about the range is that the range.
Talk about intrinsic testosterone range.
Yeah.
Like your body's total testosterone, free testosterone. All that
yes,
stuff,
of course. So like, what's funny about the range is that, say you take a big company like LabCorp, somebody, Quest, whatever. Every 5 years or so, I don't know if it's 5 years, but it's around that.
Yeah.
They kind of take an average of what the testing is that they've been getting over those last few years on like what the total testosterone is, and they usually kind of dump the bottom 5% and They dump the top 5%. That's how they come to it. So like the levels of people have gotten lower over the years.
Yeah.
I remember like when I first started going to the doctor, like in my early 20s or mid 20s or whatever, and you get a testosterone test, the levels could go up pretty high, like 1500 or something like that, 1600. And then I believe, like shortly after that, I think I used to see them go up to about 12.
Yeah.
So right there, they were considering that there were actually people who naturally walked around with that. Yeah. But now it's much lower. It's like maybe
like 800,
like
right?
8 or 9, depending on the lab.
What's the low end?
It's usually between like 250 and 350, I feel like.
So 300 to 800 is kind of the range generally.
I believe in 2025, most lab ranges are going to be somewhere in that. Maybe a little higher, maybe a little lower.
But I think it's misleading too, though, because like if you take a guy that's naturally 300 his whole life, and then you go to the doctor and like, oh, you got the low range, the optimal range is, let's get you to the high range, 600-700, to get up 300 extra total T for a guy that's been at 300 his whole life.
It would make a difference, yeah, for sure.
Oh, huge difference, without a doubt. But that
Mm-hmm.
could potentially be detrimental to that guy's health, no? If he was operating at 300 and that's his baseline, and he's right, because he doesn't really need it, because his whole life he's been there.
Well, I don't think
not his whole life.
I don't think it'd be detrimental. And,
if he doesn't do blood work, if he doesn't, right?
It's still like a fairly on the lower end, and now will be better because when he came in at 300, was he overweight? How was his blood sugar? How was his cholesterol?
Yeah.
So if, for example, if he was 300 and he was just, I don't know, he's 5'11", he's 220 pounds, he's a little soft in the middle.
Yeah.
If by going on it, if his body shifts, a little more muscle, a little less fat, maybe say he drops 12 pounds or something.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe did his blood sugar improve?
You know what? You're right. There you go.
Did the 12 pounds make him going from a blood pressure of 130/85 to 120/70?
Yeah.
So in that case, obviously it's healthier.
Oh, for sure. Without it,
his triglycerides drop because a lot of times testosterone drops your triglycerides.
But that's kind of the best case scenario for this theoretical guy.
But right? And that's a guy taking testosterone. Now, if a guy's off on the street and he's doing like a lot of like anabolic steroids or something, I'm talking about these healthy things, like these healthy reverses. I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Some of those other steroids don't do that, and some of them actually reverse that and make it go in the worst direction. So like somebody who's taking like oral steroids, their cholesterol's going to look terrible.
Yeah. But let me say something, right? With the testosterone, there's a risk of hematocrit increasing, hemoglobin increasing, blood pressure increasing, all this stuff. You know what I mean? And then there's also the psychological side of, man, I feel freaking great at this dose. Let me freaking increase it a little bit. All of a sudden, I put 20 pounds of this guy who was 200 pounds. Now he's all of a sudden 220, 225 because he's getting jacked at the gym. He started picking up weights, right?
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, you know what, man, I'm just going to titrate just little by little. And it could be a slippery slope, no?
It's possible to have a slippery slope. It's possible. The hematocrit thing and the hemoglobin
how do you handle, like, most guys, like, feeling like this soft, weak guy? The majority of the guys...
I think, to be honest, in my experience, when guys go on, like, TRT or testosterone, I don't usually see weight gains.
Yeah.
When guys are on, like, just like the regular amount, I see a shift in the composition, but I don't really see a change in the weight so much.
Oh, yeah, I mean, they lose fat, gain muscle.
Yeah, I don't really see a huge change in the weight.
No.
If a guy came and did it and he gained like 20, 25 pounds, I would think he would probably be doing something else with it.
True.
So in that sense, something else with it causing the weight gain, like you mentioned blood pressure, I really think the only time you would see an increase would be with a weight gain. I don't think it would necessarily be the testosterone in itself. I just think you're leveraging the testosterone to be 25 pounds heavier.
Yeah.
And if you just decide to be 25 pounds heavier,
you'd have high blood pressure too.
I think even if the end result wasn't high blood pressure, I think you would still be a little elevated for a while till you got used to that weight. I think. And it depends on genetics on the person, for sure.
But like the average person should monitor bloods, should do this, should look at the estrogen, should go frequently into the thing to get their health checked and look at the biomarkers. Don't you think most people won't do that though?
I think more people are willing to do that now than like back in the day.
Oh, back in the day, without a doubt, people did just go on and off, and never even check their bloods. You know?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But some people,
I'm still of the camp of like most people shouldn't do this. You know, most people, just because I feel like it's just too much for people to monitor. It just complicates things, and then you're not sleeping right, you're not eating right, and you're using this thing as a band-aid, and then it messes them up even more.
I think there's
I think
you should be I think you should be committed. I think you should already have like a good way of eating. I'm not gonna say like a diet, like you're on a total, like at least good habits, and you do go to the gym, and that's like part of your life. Like there's no need for like some guy who's like a fat guy, and doesn't go to the gym, and just wants to take it because like feels like everybody else is taking it. That's just kind of.
But it could help that guy lose a lot of weight too.
It could. I have seen it. I have seen people who didn't work out at all, and they just were so low that dose made them lose.
Yeah.
I've seen guys lose like 20, 30 pounds.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So obviously, that would, I honestly think that a 20, 30 pound reversal, say a guy's like 270 and now he's like 235, 240, I think it's automatically going to improve some of his health markers, 100%. For
sure. We're going to talk about how this can affect performance in grappling. But before that, I want you guys to go to patreon.com to the Shintaro Higashi Show and support us, right? We're doing chat with me stuff, video chat stuff, one-to-one mentorship stuff. So please check it out, Patreon. We're going to link it down below. Thank you so much. My editor is going to put like a little graphic here, how to find it and whatnot. Performance enhancement in grappling. Is it a thing? Of course.
Of course, obviously it's a thing.
How can it help grapplers? And do you think it's prevalent enough to say a lot of people are on it in grappling?
So when we're talking about grappling, we're going to assume all forms. We're going to talk about jiu-jitsu, wrestling, judo,
so the four majors. Right? Judo, wrestling, sambo, BJJ. Those are the four major grappling sports, right? Between those, I mean, you know.
So here's the difference. So here's the one thing, right? All of them are tested except jiu-jitsu.
I mean, they're kind of little by little doing it. It depends on which segment.
Well, in jiu-jitsu, I think they test like at the IBJJF, the Gi Worlds, right? Yeah. But I don't even know if they do much else, to be honest. Yeah. And it's only a couple of guys. Yeah. From what I've seen, I don't know because I'm not really in jiu-jitsu like that to know. I mean, it's definitely a thing. So, I guess like they have a lot of people doing it, and there's a lot of recreational guys, and then there's a lot of like pro guys. Yeah. And I feel like they both are kind of doing it. Plus, I feel like the demographic for jiu-jitsu is a little bit older.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure, without a doubt.
Yeah. So a lot of guys over a certain age, you're not going to be able to train the way they would want to train. Yeah. Probably unless they were on at least some sort of like replacement. Yeah. Because to train really hard at any of these sports without anything and say your levels are a little low could actually like have some detriments to your health.
That's true.
You know
That's
what
true.
I mean?
Yeah,
and it could affect you in other ways of life.
Yeah. Also, though, it also depends on which weight class you're at, right?
Definitely.
If you're cutting friggin' 10 pounds or 20 pounds, if you're lightweight, like you're, I don't know, 60 kilos.
So we were talking about a fat guy taking tests and losing weight. If you're a lean guy and you go on like some kind of anything, you're definitely not losing weight.
No, so it's going to be hard to get down in the weight class. And let's just say you're
like I said, you're going to change that composition, but you're certainly not going to lose weight.
And then if you have a very long person style because you cut a lot of weight, you know, let's just say you're like 5'10", wrestling 66 or 60, and you're just a taller guy out here doing the kind of thing, and now all of a sudden you get jacked and go 81, you're going to have a hard time because that same style is not going to work as much.
Totally different. So like it's not like either this, like you're not just going to like start taking stuff, you're going to be like amazing. You still have to be good at all these sports. It's like very technical sports. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
so heavier weights tend to be on it more?
I would think.
Yeah.
I would think so.
No, right? And certain countries
might
have more athletes on it.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah. So how do you think it helps? Obviously it makes you stronger. Recovery is better.
Yeah. So also like recovery is better, right? So let's just say we went and did Randuri last
This is not a commercial to go out and do roids, by the way.
No.
It's kind of just like an intellectual conversation.
Yeah, it's a good conversation. Yeah. Because it's kind of like in the dark kind of thing.
It really isn't.
And I'm not saying, and you definitely don't need to be on something to be really good at any of these sports. It's not at all.
Look at the Japanese, man. They are very stringent with this kind of stuff, and it's not that accessible in Japan. Like you can't go to a doctor's office and buy this stuff or get a prescription in Japan.
Well, there are certain places that you certainly can.
I mean,
but I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you've been there, so you probably know. But I have also seen some Japanese guys that were like in certain weight classes and winning, and now they're retired and they're much lighter.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing. You
So
know, I know for a fact.
So you're telling me that when you stop training 6 hours a day, that you lose 30 pounds?
No, but let me tell you something. I'll tell you. I'll build this case for Japan's
Okay.
nattiness.
Real quick before we
go. This is the thing. Japanese judo players lift a lot.
Okay.
I'm talking like I used to go to Kukushikan High School, which is like the Birkin Catholic of judo in Japan.
Yeah,
You know, they got 100 guys on the mat, kids, high school kids, and there was a 16, 17-year-old kids there benching 150 kilograms.
Yeah, I believe it.
Ridiculously strong. Even throughout college and then their pro career of judo, they're lifting weights usually 99% of the time. No, I don't say 99, but like majority of the time, right? And then afterwards, people don't continue to lift weights. When you're a civilian in Japan, you don't go to the gym, you don't work out, you just work. You're a workhorse.
So is the gym culture a thing in Japan?
Nah, man.
Not even now, 2025?
No, it's not. Not a thing.
Really?
You get the average person, like you go to the gym, no, they don't.
So you got to be basically like an athlete or a sportsman to be lifting weights in Japan.
Pretty much. And there are people who do it, but it's not like the U.S. where everybody goes to the gym.
So it's probably like here in like the 80s where there's just probably like a couple like little basement gyms with some hardcore guys.
Probably.
And it's the only guys that train.
But it's ironic because there's so many more fit people in Japan because people walk and
they're active and they have
so low.
They have kind of like a good diet by design.
Yeah, 100%.
You know,
fish, rice, vegetables.
Yeah. I mean, not everything's like super squeaky clean, but a much higher percentage of it is.
Yeah. So I still think, like you look at these guys who are jacked at Kukushikan's a heavyweight university, right? Tons of heavyweights. You get like 30, 40 guys above 230, you know, in the room, right? Sometimes. And then you look at those guys and they're soft too. They don't have the massive traps and they don't have the diamond, cast.
That's genetics.
Yeah, but there's a lot of receptors there. And then, it's a classic look with the freaking, you know what I mean? And they don't have
But I'm saying some of those fast, strong guys, they could still be, they could still be super strong.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Could they potentially, some of them be on it? Yeah, of course. But if you look at like
probably
the Japanese versus like another country that is over the ocean to the west side to the northern, that region, you know what I mean? Like those guys, it's much more prevalent over there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So how do you think this stuff helps, man?
Well, I think it'd be like, the way it would help would probably be, for example, like, let's just say we did like a really hard practice last night. We did like an hour and 15 minutes around dirty or something. Top it off.
Yeah.
Usually you'd be crushed.
Yeah.
But like, probably you'd be able to get up the next day and do your weight training.
Yeah. If you're on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas like before, probably would need a whole day off.
Yeah.
And then today, like if you had to do some weight training and maybe like another session later, you probably could get that done as long as you're eating and sleeping.
That's true.
Yeah. Especially some of these places where these guys are doing like 2-a-day training.
Yeah.
I would think.
Yeah, and you know what? As you're on it for a very long period of time, taking that shorter recovery period and doing much more volume, that adds up. And even if you go off it and you're much weaker, that time you spent on the mat, you've spent that time developing a skill. And that skill never goes away.
No,
right?
Sure.
So it's always like an advantage, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, how many times did you have like a totally bad day or you feel like crap or you didn't sleep and you go in the dojo and like you're still smoking everybody?
Yeah.
Even though like you don't feel half as good as normal.
Oh, for sure.
So it doesn't matter.
No, because it's a skill-based thing.
Yeah.
So there's like a combination a little bit, right?
You just know today, all right, I'm just going to counter all these guys. I'm going to foot sweep all these guys or whatever just comes to mind.
Yeah, you can do it.
Yeah. Whatever. I'm just going to wait till this guy turns like this and whatever.
Yeah. Wow. So, I mean, do you think like USADA and WADA are doing a good job testing and weeding it out? What do you think about that? Should they just go away from testing, period?
I don't know. Like, I feel like it's not really an even playing field because WADA, that's the world, and then you have USADA, which is like here in the U.S.
Yeah.
So I guess they're like kind of like intertwined, but it's not really the same thing.
Yeah.
I feel like in America, like USADA's definitely they're obviously actively trying to catch people. Like that's what they're in the business of.
Yeah.
I feel like in other countries, not so much. I feel like, in fact, maybe their, anti-doping agency may even help.
Yeah.
Plus, I do think that I wouldn't be surprised if certain countries paid money to the federation to like have little testing.
I mean, the Russian scandal, right?
Because I don't think it'd be like, oh, here's money, don't test our guy. It would just be like, okay, this is our gift this year, and like almost it would be like kind of like an unsaid
Of course.
thing,
Yeah.
because I think this does go on in some other federations and other sports, totally not even related to grappling.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, why wouldn't it happen in one of these grappling federations?
Oh, of course, yeah, without a doubt.
You know?
I mean, I hear stories like, hey, you know, we're going to do random testing at, you know, so-and-so training center. Just so you guys know.
I've just seen random.
you know?
I've just seen random
Yeah.
testing too at certain events, and
Yeah.
like the only guys in there are like 130, 40-pound guys from like Venezuela and like Nicaragua.
Yeah, I've seen that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, first off, they're light. Two, they're from like these little countries. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah, I'll never
Like,
forget,
where's the
man,
guys from like
yeah.
you know the obvious
Yeah.
places? Like,
Yeah.
really?
I like this one. It's like,
Or-
we're going to do random testing at this tournament, you know, and it's going to be completely random, but they'll pick from the pool of people on the podium,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then the random selector comes in and goes, okay, let's see. He looks soft. He looks weak. You've been randomly selected.
Yeah.
The gold medalist, he's like all jacked up. He's like, randomly, I just got selected? It's like, that's not random. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely flawed, I think. In a lot
I think
of
there's
ways,
guys too that know how to like
Yeah.
get around.
Oh, for sure. And in the U.S., it's much harder too because now
I think
there's
so.
in competition testing, out of competition testing.
It's not easy.
No.
It wouldn't.
Yeah.
It would not be easy.
I mean, there's some ways to circumvent it too, right? You take yourself off the competitors list, you retire.
Well, yeah, I hear guys
know?
do that with UFC, right? It's like a
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. I mean, does that help? Taking 2 years off and just getting juice to the gills and coming back?
No, I don't think it would help.
Why not?
You're just going to return back to what you are.
Yeah, I mean, when you go off it,
Yeah.
right? But you could train twice the volume, maybe.
I know, but
Right.
now, like you're not on it, and now, like, say, I don't know,
Yeah.
you're in this training camp getting ready for a fight, and you're doing 2-a-days, and you're
Mm.
like hammering it hard every day,
Yeah.
and you're trying to hammer it hard every day, and now you're getting all these like maybe you're getting nagging injuries because you're trying to like train at the pace to get ready for such an event.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes a lot of training to get ready for super big events,
Yeah.
whether it's a UFC fight or a world championship in whatever
Yeah.
sport. You know, it takes a lot. You know,
Yeah.
I always wonder. I mean, I feel like when you watch those wrestlers, some of these wrestlers from like the '90s and stuff, I feel like there must have been like very little testing. If you
Yeah.
watch like an old like Worlds or something from like
Yeah.
20, 30 years ago, I think there's a lot of guys doing stuff. But now, I'm not saying I have no idea. Like, wouldn't even know the first thing. But like, I don't know. I think like a lot of our guys from like USA Wrestling,
Yeah.
they look pretty clean to me. I don't know.
Yeah, they don't look like yoked up anymore, I think. You know?
But if you looked at like a Worlds from like the '80s, '90s, some of the guys look pretty jacked.
Oh, yeah. You watch, like, you know, Yo Romero, I'm not saying he's on or anything, but, like, guys like that.
Yeah.
Guys who are, like,
Well, he's also like a real
superhuman.
freaky guy.
Yeah, I mean, genetics have a role
But
in
I've
it,
seen
too,
some. I've
you
seen
know?
some of these guys that look. I mean, from them, and maybe some of them are coaches now that you see sometimes,
Yeah.
like coaching.
Yeah.
You know, for the other countries,
Yeah.
and you'd be like, "Yo, that guy," and then you see an old clip or an old
Yeah.
video on YouTube, like, "Yo, that guy was huge back then." Like,
Huge.
That's what that guy looks like now. What the
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
It was like, oh my god.
But then you look at, like, Eliadis now, and he's still jacked more than ever.
But Elias
you know?
is still young and he still trains.
Yeah, how old is he?
He's younger than us.
Is he? He's in his 30s? Gotta be. 30...
He won the Olympics in '04, right?
And then he was 17 at the time.
Yeah.
Also, he's like 2 years younger than us.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy. All right, so is it cheating, would you say, to do some performance enhancements if you're a grappler?
I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, not everybody's born the same either.
That's true. That's true. And you have zero control over that, you know?
Yeah.
Some people might argue, like, no, you got to do what you got, you know? But it's tough.
And,
to
and I'm
overcome
not just
some of
I'm not just talking about physical attributes. I'm talking about internal attributes too.
these. Nah. Like how?
Just like, well, a lot of the physical what we see on the outside is due to what's going on the inside, like
Yeah.
just the overall metabolism,
Yeah, that's
your
true.
testosterone, your thyroid, your
Yeah.
IGF-1, your insulin, all these things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just also like your makeup of muscle fibers.
Yeah.
Also, just because of say a certain guy might be a beast of an athlete, like say on a football field,
Yeah.
definitely doesn't mean he might be a beast of an athlete like on a judo mat either.
Yeah, man. It's
Because it's two totally different things.
Yeah, 100%.
Where like a football guy might be like more fast, like kind of like gazelle
Yeah.
type.
Yeah.
But like that guy might be really easy to throw because he might just come in and you can just like pick him
Yeah.
up like or doggy him like to the ceiling because he's like coming in with so much.
Yeah.
Where like a good wrestler, judo guy, he might be like so like in tight, and he's got you in there, and he's grabbing you, and you're just like, whoa, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you're trying to like get out, or you're trying to do this, and that's when they could like hit their moves, and that's obviously your feel and your technique and like stuff that you develop from doing like randori and like going to live wrestling or rolling jiu-jitsu or whatever.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, especially too, like a lot of those guys you see like say play football or play basketball, they're really tall.
Yeah.
But they're like built differently than say a guy that's like a tall guy in a judo mat. If you see a tall guy at like if you're like a Worlds or a Grand Prix like judo, you see a tall guy, but then they're also like might be like stocky and tall too.
Yeah.
Where like I feel like in America we have maybe like shorter stocky guys and then like tall skinny guys. Like but like over there you see like something like different that you haven't seen.
Yeah, they got thick wrists and big bones and all that stuff. Yeah,
exactly.
For sure, man.
Or you might get a guy who just like never had an ounce of fat on him in his life. So maybe he is 81 keys, but like when you walked in the room, you thought like maybe he was in hundreds.
Yeah, because you get those guys with no body fat. They're just like lean and just really jacked.
Yeah, maybe he's really lean, really jacked, and maybe he's like a little big up top, and he has like real skinny legs or something. So you don't know. So like the weight, because you saw him maybe just walking, and you looked at his upper, and you're like, wow, that guy's pretty big. 81, like how? And then maybe you saw him, and his legs were a little kind of small.
Yeah, that's the whole thing, right? Like that guy's jacked for 87, 82, 81, or like, oh, that guy's a huge, 63 or whatever it is. Not 63 for men.
Yeah.
For women, obviously for judo. What are the wrestling weights now?
Wrestling weights?
Wrestling, they got Olympic weights?
Well, we have Olympic weights,
yeah,
and there's non-Olympic weights. The non-Olympic weights, I think, are great.
How many are there?
I think it comes out to like 10.
Non-Olympic?
Yeah.
But the Olympics...
The Olympics only 6. Pretty slim.
That is slim. Yeah. I think judo's got it figured out with the weight classes, man.
It's pretty
Seriously.
good. I think judo's good too. Like
60,
honestly,
66, 73. Like it gets a little bit wider as the weight classes go up.
Yeah.
And it's done really well, I think.
I think so too. Especially with this like 198, then a 220, then
yeah.
Because in wrestling, they go from like 189 to like 213.
Yeah.
And then you have like heavyweights.
Yeah.
I think more people. I think it'd be better if it was like a 220-ish. It used to be.
Yeah.
Like I think like 30 years ago, I think it was like 220. I think that'd be better.
Yeah.
I think more guys would fit into there.
Yeah.
And then just the big guys would be the big guys.
Yeah.
But what was interesting, UWW, or actually it was Fila still when they did this. I remember at one point, they raised it back up a little bit. But remember at one point, they cut the heavyweight limit to 264 and a half, to 120 kilos.
Yeah.
Now it's 125.
Okay.
But it used to be 130 way back when.
Yeah.
Greco's still 130 because I guess there's real big guys doing Greco. But think about that. They wanted everybody like friggin' trim, man. Like, They still wanted guys like lean and trim, fit.
That's gotta be brutal.
And that was when that guy Tomazov was winning gold medals.
Yeah. Do you like that better than unlimited in judo?
I think the unlimited is kind of interesting.
It is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you get all sorts of body shapes and sizes.
I think it's pretty interesting.
What percentage of those guys are
the best thing here, before I answer that, the best thing I think would be unlimited and leg grabs at heavyweight.
Oh.
Because with no leg grabs, the unlimited, it really favors the guy that's like really tall and heavy.
It does, 100%.
But I could easily probably dive in and grab a guy's legs who's like 6'6" and like 300. It's easy.
Yeah.
He's not even going to see it coming. Even if he does, he's probably not even going to get there fast
It's
enough.
unfortunate that they didn't bring it back. Huh?
Yeah. I think everybody's disappointed.
Everybody, yeah. Heavyweights must help.
Definitely
if you're
more.
being outweighed,
100%.
If someone outweighs you by 40 pounds,
dude, it's 100%, 100% more heavyweights.
Because it makes you stronger too.
I've also seen guys, obviously, like, well, I can name names. Names or countries, we don't do that. But how many guys did you see that, I mean, so you fought minus 100 internationally.
Yeah.
So how many guys, say when you phased out and were minus 100, ended up being heavyweights?
Yeah.
But not only were they heavyweights, they weighed like 260, 265.
Yeah, like I'll give you an example. Lucas Krapalik. I fought him at hundreds.
Yeah.
And he's, obviously won a lot of stuff at 100 plus. And he was like...
What do you think he weighed?
When I...
No, a heavyweight.
Not 250, maybe 240.
Okay. And there's some other guys too.
240 to 260.
There's some other guys I saw that were like in there, definitely like got some medals or close to it, whatever. Like, they were pretty heavy. Like, I'm like, man, this guy definitely doesn't look like he did when he was 100.
Yeah.
And like, how does a grown man put on 40, 50 pounds of straight muscle at the age of like 30?
Yeah, he went through a growth spurt.
It's a little suspect, I think.
Yeah, it really is interesting how this whole thing is, man. But I really still believe to this day, man, it's really not for the average person. You know, I think it's just too much monitoring. You know, like you got to look at aromatization and how much your estrogen is, and like all these different things. It's just too much for people to.
It's a lot. It's not as easy as people think.
No, and you know what the problem is? It's like they do it because they believe it's a shortcut, but it actually adds so much more work to do it properly.
Listen,
I think
if anybody's doing anything, I think you need to know exactly where your blood work is, all those like hormone markers, and they may even be things that the doctor might not even be thinking of testing. That's why, like, if you're going to do that, you need to go to a doctor who, like...
What's an example of that?
Knows what they're doing.
Something that not mainstream to monitor.
Thyroid.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Which they may test. They may just test, for example...
TSH.
The TSH, but the TSH is not a thyroid hormone. No. It's a signal.
It's a thyroid stimulating hormone.
Yes, it's a signal. It's a signal from your pituitary.
Yeah. So you got to specifically ask, measure my T3, T4?
T3, T4.
Yeah.
Free T3, free T4.
Yeah.
Reverse T3.
Yeah. What's that one?
Reverse T3.
What's that?
It's a little bit complicated, but it's essentially like when the free T3 thyroid, the active hormones, like reverses instead and like kind of goes out the other way instead of working for you and like going in your cell and going in your cells.
Interesting.
See, because T4...
So you can physically ask the doctor, like, yo, can you test this thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because what happens is normally, the way a normal thyroid works is brain sends TSH, from pituitary to the gland. Yeah. All right. Gland pumps out T4, inactive. Yeah. Goes in the liver, turns to T3, active.
Thyroxine?
No, well, thyroxine is the name for T4.
Okay. Turns into T3 is...
Looks like triiodothyroid.
Yeah.
I've never had
we're not doctors.
But it's pretty close. Anybody who knows the actual term would recognize what I was trying to say. But
you gotta monitor this stuff.
Yeah. So like, does a person have Hashimoto's? Like an autoimmune disease? Does your thyroid gland work? Like, is it going to work properly? No. If your TSH is high, which means that your gland isn't producing. That's why it's like pumping the signal so high. Yeah. Like, I know I've seen people go to their doctors or even doctors be totally confused and be like, they see the TSH high and they think the thyroid's high. I'm like, oh my god, like, did they learn anything? That's like basics.
But generally, TSH is high doesn't mean your T3 and T4 is low. So therefore, you have a low metabolism. Therefore, you're getting kind of fat and fatigued.
Yeah, but I mean, it's
because it regulates metabolism, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how does that interact with the performance enhancement testosterone stuff? Does it?
Yeah.
It does?
Yeah. I mean, because like we said, we're talking about metabolism.
Yeah.
And basically, thyroid hormone synthesizes proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. So it puts things in the right places and the energy in the right cells. Yeah. So we can perform and just... if you had a very low thyroid, you'd be extremely sleepy. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. I mean, it's a common thing, right? Hypothyroidism, you know?
Yeah, tons of people have that. But a lot of times, people are thrown on that medicine actually fairly easily. Lots of people are on that medicine.
Oh, yeah.
But a lot of times, like, they're not really given something. They're just given the medicine, but they're not really, like, improved from the medicine because they're not either not given enough or they're not given the right type.
Yeah, interesting stuff.
That's why you need to do all those things I just mentioned to see like what it's actually turning into, because like you may have an issue with actually converting in the liver, maybe. Yeah, you know, because you're bypassing the whole pituitary to the gland thing, but maybe it's not converting. Yeah.
What are some misconceptions about juice, do you think?
Misconceptions?
Yeah, some big ones, especially like.
I don't think it's not going to make you like an Olympic champion just because you're on juice. Number one.
That's true. That's 100% true.
You still have to be good.
Yeah. Still have to be good at judo. Yeah.
Like I don't think like I see sometimes you see these football players and they're like in high school or their parents have them like doing like growth hormone or some crazy shit. Yeah. Like kids in high school. Yeah. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Your T levels are naturally so high when you're at that age.
Yeah, and like even if we're talking like I'm guessing like I don't know, but I'm sure like it's pretty prevalent in like football. Yeah.
It's I'm not sure, but it's pretty.
I don't know. Listen,
football.
I just want to be respectful of everybody, right?
Yeah, good. Yeah.
If you were at that level, like you can go to the NFL or whatever, like if you are going to play that card, wouldn't you wait till you're like at that level?
Yeah. But you know, the problem with a lot of the football stuff is like
doing it in high school, because I feel like I've seen kids wrestle in high school, and maybe like their dad was a little crazy and maybe had them do something, or maybe they went to a doctor or did something, whatever, and they were like won like some kind of state title or this and that, and got to a good college, and then they went to college and they're like terrible.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I mean, because
does this guy go to high school? Does this guy go to college and now he can't do X, Y, Z, and then like now he's in like the Big Ten? Yeah. He just created himself a disaster because now like he won a state, went to a Big Ten school, and now he gets like hammered.
Yeah, I mean,
because a lot of those kids, like I don't think you're going to find much athletes that are in much better shape than like a good like Division I, especially like Big Ten wrestler.
Yeah.
And probably a lot of those guys probably don't even take anything.
Yeah,
and probably some of them do, probably some of them don't. But I mean, there would be.
Probably,
I don't think it's that many. I don't really think it's that many.
You're talking about wrestling.
Wrestlers,
in college.
Yeah, like college Division I wrestler.
Yeah,
I mean,
you don't think they do anything off season?
They might. I think they might. Nothing crazy, but I think they might do a little bit.
Yeah,
but it's hard to say.
Yeah, tough to say. Always
hard to say. But
I see you're very protective of your wrestling community.
No. I'm just saying I see a lot of talented kids.
Yeah.
Thing is, in America, we have so many wrestlers.
We do tons.
So, like, obviously, the best guys like go to the top.
Yeah, I think we get misled, right? Because if you're in high school and you do this stuff and you get 30-40% stronger.
Listen, I don't think anybody. I would be very shocked if there's a lot of guys in judo doing it in America. I'd be very shocked.
Oh no, yeah, American judo is
But let me ask you something. What do you think about this?
Yeah.
Like, we all do judo, right?
Yeah.
Like, other countries have their styles, right? But it's all like we all do the same moves. But just different ways, like different grabs, different setups. Like, do you think that some of these countries have it so easy and laxed, and they're able to like put these guys like? Remember, some of these countries pump a lot of money into their guys.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And some of these places have like real literature.
Yeah.
About performance enhancing.
Yeah.
Like real literature that was done in places.
Yeah.
Like in universities.
Yeah.
Okay. So the technology and like the programming, they know what to do.
Yeah.
Like, and here, like these guys are literally like paying for a sweatsuit probably to go to like the world. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, these guys are showing up. Yeah. How many times did you see these guys showing up? They got masseuses, doctors.
Oh yeah.
Why is it why do they need to bring 3 doctors to the Worlds?
So they get vitamin B12 shots and they're up before they compete.
What do they need them for?
I don't know. Yeah.
Maybe I would see like bring an orthopedic surgeon, right? Why would you bring like an internal medicine doctor to like the World Championship?
I mean, you could get a cortisone shot.
He just wants to hang out and watch the judo. Like, let me know.
I don't know.
I don't know. What do you think? But our guys in America, so okay, you could argue and say like, okay, not all our best athletes are judo players, let's say, or whatever. I don't know. But there's plenty of good athletes doing judo.
Yeah.
But there's not many. Where like in certain countries where judo is so popular, there's just more people doing it.
Yeah, like Georgia,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if you have a place like one of these countries and somebody's like telling them how to do this stuff, and they're maybe having them doing like little regimens and little courses of things on and off or whatever through their career, and like some of these countries are having a lot of success, like do you think our country would be having similar success if they were kind of like playing by the same, if they were on the same playing field, let's say, where like they didn't have a guy like knocking on the door at 5 a.m. to like watch it take a leak at any time.
Yeah. I've been out of competition tested. They showed up in my school.
Remember one guy was waiting for you in the driveway, remember, right?
Yeah. Dude came home like, hey man, you've been randomly selected. It's like, oh man. It's like, I gotta go do this thing. It's like, you can go do that thing, but there's gonna be a strike. You rather do this right now.
Or he's gotta go with you.
You gotta go with me. I'll come with you. I can't pee yet. All right, we'll stay here all day.
Now listen, especially judo, there's definitely guys where there's advantages. Like we could be in a big country where there's judo going on, and like we can go any night of the week, and there's can be like all this Randuri and all these guys. Like obviously you're gonna skyrocket.
You need that too. You need that.
You're gonna skyrocket, right? I think that's the big difference. The major difference. I'm just saying that's like a variable, like a piece of the puzzle. Like let's just say there's more guys doing judo and whatever, but let's just say, would it help bring, say, American judoka to that level of some of those other guys? Because bro, please, like some of these guys are doing stuff like it's pretty fucking apparent. Like,
Yeah. Obviously. Yeah.
I don't think they're really testing a lot
Interesting
of
stuff,
people.
man. You know, we're gonna do next episode too. We're gonna wrap this one up. But let's talk about lifting also.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
because I did like a little lifting video thing. You saw that one?
Yeah, I did.
Working out in the thing, you know. And you know, I kind of messed that one up because I did other exercises that I forgot to include. You know, it was the first time kind of messing around with that format. But you know, you have some good insights with lifting.
Yeah.
But I also want to thank you for our sponsors. Let's wrap that up. We have Elijah, Drew, Jason, Levon. Thank you very much. You guys too can be a sponsor of the show and help us keep making great content by going to my Patreon page and supporting us. Thank you, Vinny. I appreciate it. Where can these guys find you?
I'm on Instagram.
You're on Instagram,
You could type me in just my name, Vinnie, Vinnie Mancuso, Mancuso. You'll find me. I'll pop up. Yeah.
How did I not know this after 20, 30 years? I thought it was
I don't push it.
Why?
I don't push it on people.
Vinnie Mancuso. That's it.
And
Your Instagram.
Yeah, it's my Instagram, and
Nice.
usually I teach a day class at Kamal Judo in New Jersey. So anybody ever wants to come train in the afternoon, we're usually there Mondays and Wednesdays.
Yep.
Usually about 11:30.
And they don't test there.
No, come and be yourself in that class. Whatever you got, we take all comers.
Thank you, Vinny. Thank you.
Thank you.